Okay, everyone, I'm back. This time I am showing you a view of the park that my son is currently skateboarding at. But I am back for part 2 of Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. And so we're just going to pick up where I left off, where I said my landlady began to show the property while I was still in it. And I was looking for another apartment in Las Vegas. However, I didn't like that, so most of the time I did not let the people come over like she requested. But one day she called me and requested that I let this lady come and look at the property. And I was going to say no, but I heard the Most High tell me, let the lady come over. And so I did. I let the lady come over and she walked through, and me and her began talking. And she needed some information from me that was useful, and I needed some information from her that was useful. And at that point, she was telling me that she had been renting a house and her landlord sold it from under her, and so that's why she had to move, although she had Section 8, and that she was staying in a hotel, and that while she was staying in the hotel, she was not able to find a new place. If you see a kid rolling by, that's my son. She was not able to find a new place that was suitable. And so, being that she was not able to find a place, she was paying all these application fees, and she spent maybe close to $1,000 on application fees. And so at this point, I now know that it's going to be really hard to find a 2-bedroom apartment with my Section 8 voucher. And so I began to go into prayer, and the Most High began to tell me, I told you to get your paperwork ready in April. So begin to get your paperwork ready to go back to Los Angeles. Now, I don't want to be defiant and be disobedient again, because I've already done that. So although I know in the back of my mind I don't have any money to move back to Los Angeles, I'm going to do what he said. So I began to call and get the paperwork started so that my voucher can be transferred over to Los Angeles. When I did that, it got really crazy for me then, because my son was then kicked out of school. The school that was closest to us and our district school for him actually kicked him out of school and sent him to a school 45 minutes away. Again, I didn't have a vehicle, so at this point I knew that the Most High was really pushing me out of Las Vegas. And so everything was set at this point, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I received an extra stimulus check for my son for $1,400. Now, what was strange about that is I had already received our stimulus checks months ago, and that one just showed up out of nowhere. And then I remember calling to find out if it was a mistake and checking, and they were like, no, that was sent to him, and even if it was an extra stimulus check, you can keep it. And so now I have some money to get a truck and get back here to LA. So that's what we did. We set out to leave August the 2nd. It was only he and I packing up the truck and all of our stuff to move back to LA. The maintenance man actually came and helped us out a little bit. And so by about 7 p.m. August the 2nd, we drove back to LA with a U-Haul truck full of stuff. and we went to this hotel that I had booked. And I pull in with a huge U-Haul. I tell them I don't know where I can park this. They say park around the side of the building, and we come in and we start our journey right here in LA with no money. However, I did have some knowledge of how the county building worked if you were homeless here in Los Angeles. And so the very next day, I got up, I started calling and filling out things online. And so the county building agreed to give me hotel money for 2 weeks. So I knew we'd have somewhere to stay for that time. And this is all while I'm waiting for my new voucher in Los Angeles to be prepared. Now, there's another caveat to this. In LA, when there's just 2 people in the household, they only give you a 1-bedroom voucher. However, I had put in for a reasonable accommodation because my son has disabilities, so that we can get an extra bedroom. And so at that point, I thought had the reasonable accommodation, but I'll tell you about that a little down the line in the story. And so in the meantime, we're staying in this hotel. I have paid for 2 weeks with the money that I had, and then the county building agreed to pay 2 more weeks for us. So the way it works is they'll give you the money on the card. You go to the ATM, you pay the hotel gives you a receipt, you show the county building. And so at this point, though, the hotel is costing almost $900 for 1 week. So 1 week was $900. And so I began to think, what else could I do? And so I started looking for Airbnbs to rent a room for me and my son. And I found an Airbnb that would allow us to rent a room for 2 weeks for almost $900. And so I was thrilled. However, the place was in West Covina, and that is 1 hour outside of LA. So now I had to figure out how we were going to get, because again, I don't have a vehicle, and I have put my stuff in storage from the U-Haul, and now, we're in city, and I know LA, so I'm just like walking or taking the bus where we need to go. But now I have to figure out how to get us to West Covina. So I booked the Airbnb, and then I started thinking, well, I couldn't rent a car because with rentals, you have to pay a deposit, and I didn't have all the money for a deposit. So I rented a U-Haul van, and of course you're gonna have to pay for like gas and some mileage, but it was what I could do at the time. And right before I think maybe 3 days before we were going to go to West Covina, we discovered that the hotel room that we were staying in actually had bed bugs. Like, my son had been getting bitten. So they changed our room, and in 3 days we were able to go wash everything and make sure everything was fine before we would go into the Airbnb. So we get an hour away to West Covina in the Airbnb. When I get there, I discover that the room is much too small for both me and my son and our stuff. And so I asked the lady who, she was an Asian lady, did she have another room and I could pay extra? And she did show me another room, but she let me have it at the same price that I had booked it for. Shout out to Miss Sophie. She was a very sweet lady. And so then me and my son had a room to stay in. And so I then had to bring the U-Haul van all the way back to LA, and then we had to catch the bus all the way back to West Covina, which I don't even have time to tell you guys that story today. It was a lot. It took us hours to get back out there on the public transit, but we did it. And so this is part 2. I will continue on with part 3.